If I were to tell you that what happened to The Boys is one of the greatest lessons you can learn about modern media, would you believe me? I wouldn't blame you if you didn't. There are so many people who don't even know their favorite show is going through a crisis, it's concerning.
How do you know?
This is usually the same kind of people who spend their life blindly consuming shit media without actually thinking about what they are watching. Thankfully, you are here, and this means that by the end of this video, you will be able to not only understand why the new season of The Boys sucks, but also identify the same issues in other pieces of media. Just in time to tell your friends why their opinion is wrong. Okay. Disclaimer, I am not American. Any mention to American politics isn't some form of affiliation or another. I'm saying this because the current discourse around the show goes one of two ways. One, if you like The Boys, you're a liberal snowflake idiot who can't understand that the show is garbage. Or two, if you dislike The Boys, you're an evil Trump supporter who is triggered by the contents of the show. Both of these positions are garbage tier, low effort takes, and I will be focusing on the show itself, not the ethics of poser political endorsement by losers on the internet. Good, good, because now we can get right into the meat and potatoes of this video. If you ever started a project before, you've done a brainstorm. It's where you pitch all the ideas you and your partners can muster on something, and you see what sounds good or not. Bear with me, I promise this is about The Boys. They say a good brainstorm has no bad ideas, so as to not turn anyone away from pitching their ideas, but no one talks about the hidden harm of introducing too many ideas. From season 1 to season 3, the writers had an almost impossible task put upon them. Adapt one of the most edgy, spiteful comics about a beloved genre and turn it into a TV show with mass appeal. That's genuinely really hard, and season 4 manages to do this fine most times. There are some great moments. The whole episode leading to the death of Huey's dad, the speech Butcher gives to Huey as he faces his own mortality, Victoria Newman getting flashed not only in character but also in real life is a pretty exceptional involuntary method acting bit. However, most of the scenes that want to be funny or comedic in nature are extremely subpar and genuinely not that well written. The simp eating his own ass, the Sesame Street Muppet ripoff, Huey getting fucking clocked by Starlight, it's either recycled or doesn't add on to anything. We know soups are degenerates, we know that there are shows that try to indoctrinate kids, we've seen Huey being weak. I can understand that funny is in the eye of the beholder, but even if I do not like a comic, for example, I can appreciate a well-written joke. Tony Hinchcliffe is a stand-up that doesn't resonate with me that much, but it doesn't mean that I can't understand why people like him. His Rodney King bit is insanely smart.
The Tiger King and the Liver King only ate Burger King and had a liver that looked like Martin Luther King got beat up by Rodney King.
This season feels exactly like a brainstorm gone bad, like a teenager trying to figure out how to dress or how to act. Too many ideas were trying to be executed at the same time without proper guidance behind them. The most indicative moment of this in the entire runtime of season 4 is when Huey decides that he wants to forgive people. That forgiveness is the penultimate expression of strength, and that's what his dad taught him before he died, and that it's really important. And wait, shit, where have I heard this before? I've heard this before, and you probably have too, actually. There is one Japanese anime which tackled the exact topic in the winter of 2023, and I am of course talking about Vinland Saga. What exactly do these two shows have in common? Well, really not that much, to be honest, but they do touch on the same topic: the architecture of forgiveness. What I mean is this: both The Boys Season 4 and Vinland Saga Season 2 have the same goal, which is to try and understand what it means to forgive people who have wronged you. You probably guessed it, but I really don't think The Boys handled this narrative correctly, and it all has to do with the character of Huey. Huey always wanted to do things right. He always despised doing things the bad way trademark, even if he was forced to. However, it's important to understand that Huey himself never develops the thirst to do things the bad way. He kills Translucent in the first season, but he himself believes he had no other choice. He'll fight Homelander, extort Ezekiel, and he'll defend himself if need be, but he won't initiate killing someone first. Compare this to the character of Thorfinn. His entire conception of who he was and what he did revolved around violence. And the worst part is that he liked it. He wanted to kill people. He saw them as nothing more than obstacles. This sounds feels much more like the character of Butcher than it does Huey, which is why it falls completely flat when Huey proclaims that everyone should forgive Victoria and act more human towards superheroes. It doesn't work because there is no redemption to be had. The narrative setup to the conclusion of that storyline is not coherent. In my opinion, this is why the I have no enemies of Vinland Saga was such a powerful moment, while The Boys sounds cringe. Season 4 of The Boys attempts to make deep commentary on what, why, and how forgiveness works, but doesn't manage to build a proper story arc to deliver that commentary. It's by far one of the most glaring issues about this season of the show. It feels off. But it wasn't always like this. There is a huge difference between the first 3 seasons of the shows and the 4th one, no matter what anybody else says. Hell, even within season 4, there are some good story arcs. A-Train rising from terribleness to an actually pretty good guy, with the Deep going from an idiot following orders to a narcissistic psychopath following orders, are really good. Their character development is going well. Yet, it doesn't change that the prior seasons had something else going on, a little special something that really tied everything together. I think the best way to observe this is to rapidly check the characters from season to season. In season 1, we set the stage. It's the boys versus the 7. We get to know about all of our favorite characters, their backstories, their modus operandi, etc. Season 2 sees the addition of a new character, Stormfront. She is a great satirical take on characters like Thor and Red Skull, or any fascist bad guy from superhero comics in the 60s and 70s. Season 3 sees the arrival of Soldier Boy, who is a satire of Captain America, and a damn good one at that. We know this is definitely the case because Payback, the group Soldier Boy was a part of, is almost a one-to-one satire of the Avengers. We then get to season 4, where the character of Sage is introduced, and interestingly, while the character of Sage is a pretty decent take on characters like Dr. X from the X-Men or Ozymandias from Watchmen, her narrative arc is what I genuinely believe to be the best piece of evidence to illustrate the difference between prior seasons and this one. Since this show has been targeting mainly right-wing coded activities in its satire, it's gotten a lot of attentions from pundits over the years. A lot of the criticism surrounding the character of Sister Sage usually has to do with her being a woman, being black, or being really fucking annoying. That last one is what I would consider the mark of a great villain personally, but I can understand that it's not everyone's cup of tea. I consider most of these remarks to be utter and total garbage, but that doesn't mean that Sage can get off scot-free. Quite the contrary, actually. Sage is probably the character I have the biggest issues with since they introduced her on screen. See, the thing with Sister Sage is that she is loosely adapted from the character of Jessica Bradley in the comics, at least partially. To adapt her to the big screen, they decided to give her superpowers and make her the smartest conscious being on Earth.
I stayed up the next 3 nights, discovered a cure.
The thing is that in the comics, Jessica is just a regular person. She was extremely smart, without a doubt, but she was also normal. Making the small change of giving her a superpowered brain entails a full domino effect, which they did not account for in their writing. Writing what is, within the confines of the world being built by the writers, the smartest person to ever live is really fucking hard. This is why you often end up with smart-ass cringelord characters. That's why there is an entire trope built around these characters, the insufferable genius trope. And it's why Sage, as a character, feels off too. And here's why. It's one thing to make a character annoying because their entire personality makes you want to slip the ever-living shit out of them, and it's another to have a character be annoying unintentionally because their presence on screen is completely incoherent with the rest of the show, simply because the writers dug themselves into a hole they can't write their way out of.
Same holes over and over again. It gets so fucking boring. Sometimes you just gotta make your own.
However, it would be unfair to expect a character, even if she is the smartest sentient being in the known universe, to act 100% coherently throughout the show.
Hey, look at me. Get a grip on yourself right now.
It's near impossible for a writer to do so, but not only that, it's arguably not a good thing for your character to always be coherent in their writing. This might sound weird, but the small pace you allow for your characters to be quote-unquote fucking annoying, even towards the greater narrative, is what allows for the evolution or progress of the story, be it for the character itself or the greater plot. I can already hear you mutter to yourself behind your screen, typing away in the comment section, "Vernier, you absolute buffoon, you absolute fucking moron." You just criticized Sage and her incoherence, and now you are saying that an incoherent character is not always bad. That doesn't make any sense. Okay, I'm getting to it. Don't make me pull out the Subway Surfers footage to keep your attention around. Yes, I just said that a small amount of incoherence is necessary for the evolution of a story or character arc, but Sage's case is different. The incoherence of Sage's character is a bad thing because it illustrates a major shift the show went through. The Boys, at its core, is a satirical show. Or at least it was beforehand. Terry Pratchett has a quote that is attributed to him, be it falsely or not, concerning the nature of satire. It reads, "Satire is meant to ridicule power. If you are laughing at people who are hurting, it's not satire, it's bullying." The second part of that quote is more or less relevant to our topic, but the first part is right on point. Satire is a tool used by people to laugh at people, organizations, or systems in positions of power. The Boys criticizes power frequently. Its satire is a core part of its social commentary. The point being that The Boys uses satire all the time. So why am I saying that it isn't a satirical show anymore? Well, it mainly has to do with one external ongoing event that is pretty much unrelated to The Boys, and yet has had the biggest impact on it since the beginning of the show all the way back in 2019, the fall of Marvel. The Boys criticizes tropes that were made popular by Marvel. Marvel movies, Marvel TV series, Marvel comics, it's all Marvel. And yet, it's no secret that Marvel is struggling to stay relevant. Marvel, as of writing this video, is losing its hegemony on geek culture. It isn't in a position of power anymore. We talked about each character beforehand. Having a satirical take on characters like Red Skull and Captain America works much better when the source material is doing well because they are in a position of power. But if Red Skull and Captain America were gone when they would do this, it would become empty commentary, a satire with no power to criticize, a gunshot aimed at a nothing target. If you can't stick it to the big guy, you can't call it satire anymore. Superhero fatigue is real, and that means companies like Marvel and DC aren't at the top of geek culture anymore. So if The Boys isn't satire anymore, what is it? What's the point of the new season if the core message that it used to have isn't valid anymore? Some would argue that Marvel and DC are still at the top of their game, but the numbers don't lie, and the show has had to adapt in order to make this work. Some others will argue that the writers have not even noticed that this shift has happened, that The Boys keeps beating the same dead horse again and again without realizing that people think it's whack.
You have no idea.
Bollocks.
Personally, I'm of the idea that the writers are very much aware of this problem, especially after the end of Season 3. Throughout the video, we've said that The Boys has always been a show that had social commentary, which is absolutely true. Saying otherwise is just a room temperature IQ take. I'm sorry, it's true. What is also true is that the latest season has pushed one aspect of its social commentary to the max, almost as a way to create a new identity for itself, something a lot of people have picked up on but didn't realize until the end of the show. The Boys, as a way to find a new core message to share amongst its fanbase, has decided to push its political commentary to 11. It became, in a way, a parody of American politics. I did tell you we'd be talking about politics. Don't make me tap the sign again, okay? The difference between a parody and a satire is fairly muddy depending on who you ask, but there is generally a difference that everyone agrees with. Satire uses irony and ridicule to highlight and critique flaws in individuals and society. It's meant to provoke thought and reform. Parody, on the other hand, is the imitation of a specific thing, usually a work or an author, but in this case it was extended to American politics, as a mean to entertain an audience by usually highlighting flaws. Spaceballs is a parody of Star Wars. Idiocracy is a satire of American populism, mercantilism, and its overall education system. There is a huge difference in tone between the two. The intention behind each one is completely different. Satire, at its core, comes from a positive intention. You ridicule something to bring a spotlight as a means to bring change about. Parody is just making fun of something because you think it's funny. The intention is completely neutral. This isn't to say that parody is necessarily useless, but since the intention is different, the essence of the show derived from it is also different. No wonder so many people think the latest season had something off about it. So then the question is, knowing all of this, how bad is season 4 of The Boys? In my honest opinion, it's not necessarily that it's bad, but it's just not good. There are decent moments. I can notably think of Huey's moment with his dad and Butcher's call to Huey, as well as some gags here and there that I thought were genuinely clever, but it's missing the quality, coherence, and essence of the prior seasons. And for this, season 4 of The Boys gets a 6 out of 10 from me. There is no way this season is even close to being a 9 out of 10, but I wouldn't go as far as to say it's completely garbage. It simply feels like it doesn't know where to go. It awkwardly tries to find an identity for itself without understanding what it entails, the same way a teenager attempts to come of age by defining what its identity is. We can only hope that The Boys will mature into a fine piece of media, something that can actually stand on its own, as we look forward to season 5. Now that you know that season 4 kinda sucks, you might be wondering if Amazon shows are any good nowadays, but not all Amazon shows are created equal. In fact, there is another Amazon show that's hit my radar lately, but for completely different reasons to The Boys. If you want to see another great lesson in modern television shows, feel free to watch this video about season 1 of the Fallout Amazon adaptation. And as always, thank you for watching.